Question 51 from Schedule Management Domain. A project manager is reviewing a schedule network diagram. Activity B can start only after activity A has started. But activity A does not need to finish first. Both are started but don't need to finish first. What dependency type exists between these activities? So we have to find out what is the dependency type. As we discussed earlier, we have 4 dependency types. So that's one of them is finish to start, finish to finish, start to start, start to finish. As I had shown this dependency flow chart earlier, this is what they look like. Finish to start, finish activity A, start activity B, start to start activity A, and then you can start activity B. They need not finish together. Finish to finish, finish activity A, and then you can finish activity B. Start to finish, start activity A, that will lead to finish of activity B. So these are 4 different types, and what we have here in the question is activity B can start only after activity A has started. So that brings us to activity B can start when activity A has started. So start to start relationship dependency is the answer. So I'm going back to that, and that's why we have seen all of these. But option C, start to start, is the right option. Moving on to question 52, earned value management and cost management. Out of it, you will get certain figures shown here, and when you see this kind of big amounts, EV, AC, PV, then understand that the question is related to earned value management. Project has following performance data. What is performance data? Performance data is certain metrics at a point of time measured on the project progress. Basically, they consist of 3 important values: EV, that is earned value, PV, that is planned value, and actual cost, AC. As we can understand, AC is the actual cost that has been incurred while reaching to this point in the project. Planned value is on the schedule at this point. How much value was supposed to be earned, how much value was supposed to be created, that's the planned value. And earned value is the actual value created at this point of time. Say 40% progress achieved, so out of 100, 40% has been achieved, that is the value created, that is the earned value. So same way, let's see what the question is asking. Then there are various indices that help you understand the health of the project. Either there is a schedule performance index or cost performance index. Here we have some performance data as the input. So earned value EV is given as 600,000 and actual cost is given as 500,000. The sponsor asks whether the project is spending efficiently. We have to find out how is the spending, is the cost performance index healthy. So let's see, what is CPI? CPI is equal to EV. First always comes the EV, earned value divided by CPI is AC, EV divided by AC, actual cost. Here notice that actual cost is 500 and here we have earned value 600. So actual cost is lesser. When we divide this, EV divided by AC, as this value is low, is going to be more than 1. So find out 600,000 divided by 500,000, it will come to 1.2. So do we have that? Yes, option B. We have here 1.2. This is going to be the answer, but what does that indicate? It indicates that the project is under budget. That means it is spending efficiently. If this value is less than 1, then the project is over budget and the spending is not efficient. It's spending more. But in this case, as the value is more than 1, our spending on the project is efficient. Answer B tells us that the spending is under budgeted, spending is efficient, CPI is more than 1. Question 53 from Agile domain. A product team delivers working software every 2 weeks. Stakeholders provide feedback after each release, and priorities are adjusted regularly based on customer needs. Which agile principle is being demonstrated? Now understand that the product team is delivering a working software. This is the output of the project, but they are being delivered every 2 weeks. That means they are doing that in the form of short sprints of 2 weeks. Stakeholders are providing feedback at the end after each release, and so that more and more requirements from the customer are gathered to make them happy. They go back to the product backlog and priorities are adjusted there and regularly based on the customer needs. Which agile principle is being demonstrated? Option A, extensive upfront planning. No, this is not upfront planning, and nothing is extensive when it comes to agile, because the team has to be ready to gather more feedback from customer and adjust the requirements so that maximum value is delivered to the customer. Option B, frequent delivery of value. This is something that aligns with the agile principle, where delivery is in the form of sprints and every release is incremental and delivers more and more value to the customer. So frequent delivery of value is aligned with agile principle. Option C, strict scope control. Scope cannot be strictly controlled. It has to be adaptable when it comes to agile. Functional hierarchy has nothing to do here. I have earlier explained this through the flowchart that shows how agile works. You get the customer requirements. There is a product owner who maintains a product backlog. All these are the requirements from the customer. Requirement 1, 2, 3, 4. In the form of sprint, they are planned by the team into tasks 1, 2, 3, 4. As a sprint backlog is created, priorities are decided, and then they go through short sprints of duration of 1 to 4 weeks. In our question, there is 2 weeks duration given. There is a scrum master, daily meetings happen, daily scrum happens, and a shippable product, that's the incremental product after every 2 weeks being delivered. It's the retrospective where you get more customer feedback, sprint review at the end of sprint, you get more feedback, and all of those go back into the product backlog as the requirements from customer. So I think that covers it. Why this is done? Because we want to deliver frequent delivery of value to the customer. Question 54 from communications management. Stakeholder complains that technical reports contain excessive details and are difficult to understand. So there is a difficulty to understand to the stakeholder. The stakeholder only needs information about business outcomes and project progress. What should the project manager do? As we know, there is a stakeholder who is complaining about communication that is being sent to him. So the communication is not relevant to the stakeholder, and he has complained that technical reports are having excessive details, more than something that he needs to know, and are difficult to understand. As there are more technical details, it's difficult to understand. What he needs is information about business outcomes and project progress. So what are the business outcomes and what is the progress, percentages progress, what is the CPI, SPI, but not all the technical details of why certain foundation needs to be shifted, or why a pipe has to be of certain size, or why this application has to have this particular feature. All these details they don't need to have, and that's why he has been complaining. Now let's see, what should the project manager do first? Stop sending reports. Stopping the communication is never an option. Rather, find the right way of communication. How you find that is option B. Tailor the communication to the needs of stakeholder. Tailor that so that it is relevant to the stakeholder that it is going to. So as they are requiring only the business outcomes and the project progress, this is only what should go to them. So they should see only the project progress reports. Option C, require the stakeholder to attend technical meetings. Again, they have complained about technical details, so they don't need to get involved into this. And escalation, to escalate the concern to senior management. No, as a project manager, you are responsible to find a solution and act accordingly. So the solution is tailor the communication to stakeholder needs. Option B is the answer. All right, question 55. From risk management, a project team develops relationship with multiple suppliers to reduce a dependency on a single vendor. Which risk response strategy is being applied? Which risk response strategy? Risk response strategies are various. So when you know that there is a risk on the project, you prepare a risk register, list them down in the risk register, and assess the impact and probability of every risk and decide the strategy on them. How we decide the probability and impact? We do qualitative assessment of the risk followed by quantitative assessment of the risk, and then devise a strategy for treating that risk. So over here we have options as to accept the risk and do nothing. Here we have developed relationship with multiple suppliers to reduce the dependency on single vendor. So something has been done, a solution has been found. It's not accept the risk. In accept the risk, we do nothing and wait till the risk realizes. Option B, avoid. Avoid means you don't do what has been decided. So using that single vendor, we can avoid that and use somebody else. But this here we are still using the vendor along with multiple suppliers. So it's not avoid. Mitigate. Mitigate is where you devise a strategy to reduce the probability and reduce the impact of occurrence of that risk. So here, when you get a relationship developed with multiple suppliers, it is reducing the dependency on single vendor. That's how the probability and impact has been reduced. So mitigation has been done here. So mitigate is really going to be our answer. Let's see, option D is transfer, where the risk is transferred to insurance that will absorb the cost impact of this risk occurrence. So transfer is not taken up here. So option C is the right answer. Question 56 from quality management domain. A software team performs peer reviews before code is merged into the production branch. So peer reviews are being done before the code is merged into production branch. That means internal checks are being done. The goal is to identify the defects early and reduce rework later. Which quality concept does this activity primarily support? Clearly has been stated here that the goal of this internal check is to identify defects early so that we reduce the rework later. Any quality defect that has been found later, when it gets integrated with the production, once it gets delivered incrementally to the customer, the cost of repair at the time are much more. There is rework involved, more people need to be involved in it, so there is a cost to it. What quality concept does this activity primarily support? Is it prevention? Yes, we are preventing something from happening. Inspection is an activity and not a principle, so that's why I won't select it. Validation is once it is delivered to the customer does the validation by checking at their end. Verification is in the end after delivering everything. So after everything is ready, deliverables are ready, they are verified. So not this, but before that there is something we are doing, that is prevention, to avoid the rework later. So the principle here is prevention. PMP question 57 from stakeholder engagement domain. A highly influential stakeholder strongly supports the project. and actively advocates for it across the organization. How should the project manager engage this stakeholder? So it's all about the stakeholder management, engagement of the stakeholder, a highly influential stakeholder. So somebody from the top management is strongly supporting, so how their support to the project, and they actively advocate for it across the organization, so they are strong supporters of your project. What should the project manager do to engage with the stakeholder, to get them more and more involved with the project? What should you do? Option A is monitor. Monitor is when you observe a stakeholder and do not much to engage more and more with them. So here only monitoring or observing is not going to help. You want a high influence stakeholder, high power, high interest stakeholder to get involved more with the project. Keeping them just informed, keeping them with the minimum communication is not going to help. They have a lot of interest in the project and they are actively supporting the project. Keeping them just satisfied also is not going to help here, but what you need to do is manage them closely, because they are the great supporters of your project. You need their support, you need them to advocate for the project, you need them to be engaged with the project. Manage them very closely. This is the right option. Next question, question 58 from integration management domain. A project remains on schedule and within budget. So the metrics about the health of the project are given here. A project remains on schedule and within budget. However, executives determine that organizational strategy has changed significantly since project approval. What should leadership evaluate first? So what will you evaluate first? The health of the project has been declared as on schedule and within budget. So project is healthy. However, executives determine that what has changed, the organizational strategy has undergone change. And when this happens, you always need to assess after this change in the organizational strategy, is the project still a valid project? Is it still going to produce the value that will help the customer, or is it not aligned with the organization strategy? What should leadership evaluate first? Resource utilization. We can always do that later. Immediately, what is going to impact with the change of strategy? Business justification. Is the project still justified? Is it still aligned with the business value, the organizational value, organizational strategy? That needs to be checked. Communication effectiveness, it's not really an immediate evaluation that needs to be done. Procurement performance also is not something that needs to be done to check whether the project is still aligned with organizational strategy. So business justification, is the project really a valid project? Is it going to create the same values, and will it help now the organization to reach its goals aligning with its present new organizational strategy? This is all covered in checking, evaluating the business justification. So option B is the right option. Question 59 from Agile domain. During sprint planning, we are at sprint planning, team members discuss how they will implement selected product backlog items. So the team members are discussing how they will implement selected product backlog items. Who is primarily responsible for determining how the work will be completed? So who will decide these priorities? Is it product owner? Is it Scrum Master? Is it development team? Or is it the sponsor? So for this, we need to go back to our flowchart where I had shown you that customer requirements gathered in product by the product owner in product backlog, and they go into forming a sprint backlog with different tasks. Now this sprint planning is done by the team. Who is doing it? The team does the sprint planning and decides the priorities for the tasks to be completed. So let's go back to the question. Product owner, no. Scrum master, no. Development team. Development team is primarily responsible for determining how the work will be completed. So development team, not the sponsor. So option C is the right option. Question 60 from schedule management domain. A project manager reviews the schedule and identifies activities with zero total flow. Any delay to these activities will delay the project completion. What do these activities represent? Any delay to these activities will delay the project completion. Remember that all the activities on the network diagram have certain duration. When you add up all the activities which are completing, they have all the activities that have dependencies and the longest duration, but no delays allowed. That means there is zero total flow. All such activities form a path of longest duration. That is called the critical path on the project. Any activity on the critical path cannot be delayed because it doesn't have any float. It's the difference between the late start and early start, or late finish and early finish. If you don't have the wiggle room between any of them, then the activity, if delayed, will impact duration of the entire project completion. That's why these are the activities on critical path. They cannot be delayed. So what do these activities represent? Is it a milestone? No, milestone is at a point of time on the schedule. Critical path, yes, as I said, when the activities with maximum duration, they cannot be delayed. If one gets delayed, the entire completion of the project is delayed. So this is on the critical path. Non-critical paths, no, because if you delay an activity on non-critical path, still the project of entire duration of the project is not going to get delayed, because the activities on non-critical path have float on them. Schedule reserves, no, this is something that is a contingency reserved for delays. So option B is the right option, critical path.